after today, we shall be left with only one more story that we shall dwell on tomorrow, as well as maybe questions that you should have shared with me in advance. In fact, I was trying to remember one of the questions that was raised so that I can work on it. All I can remember is the story, but exactly what was asked, I can't remember. Ensure that you just send your questions in advance so that our second hour tomorrow will be about answering those questions. Otherwise, welcome to today's session. We shall be dwelling on ghosts. The second session we shall be on Ninema. I hope you're all together. I apologize for the hitch that our communication has been limited a bit from my end. Otherwise, the fact that I can share the screen, it gives me some consolation that our lesson will be, that we are able to continue with our lesson for today. And I'm also looking at our participants. I don't know why the numbers are dwindling. You are getting tired, yet you are almost at the finish line. I wonder why. Anyway, to my first story, Ghosts, I always want to give an insight into the understanding of the story, and I also dwell on the title of the story so that it enhances our understanding of it. When you look at the story Ghosts, I'm sure most students, the one that comes to mind directly is the fact that Nwoye is always visited by his dead wife. The wife had passed on, but this man can swear that he has a connection with the wife who visits him, especially during the Harmattan season. And then during the rainy season, we see that the wife no longer visits. That one becomes a physical ghost. Still, if we look at the definition of ghost, if we could look at our definition of ghost, maybe from the dictionary, another meaning, it tells us that a ghost is a semblance of something, something that resembles the real thing. In trying to fully understand the semblance of, sorry, please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Mute your mic so that I may continue. Okay, we're looking at the definition. Okay.
Yeah.
Monica, ensure that you mute. Monica.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Continue. When you're looking at another definition of ghosts, a ghost is a semblance of something. Apart from the physical ghost, number one was Ebere, that Nwoye can swear she usually visits him. We also have another physical ghost in the form of Ikenna that everyone had believed had died some many years ago. Ikenna now, when Nwoye sees him in person, he is tempted to think this must be a ghost. And according to their beliefs, you take some sand and you throw at a ghost so that you ensure whether it is real or whether it is not. Then you go to the other meaning of ghost, a semblance of something. Inafanana na kama iliyokuwa. Something that looks like what used to be is what you are calling a ghost. And among the things we are looking at in terms of ghosts, we are looking at also the Ikenna, who is now a semblance of the former. The former Ikenna used to be someone who was aggressive, talkative, and all that. But right now, when you look at him, you can't tell this used to be the person who used to look like he was wielding a lot of power. Hence the title of the story by Chimamanda Adichie, Ghosts. Then in 5 minutes, what is the story about before I can share my question? There is a history part of it, and I'm glad that I'm doing this story immediately after we've done Boi. Because from our yesterday's story, we gathered that sometimes a group of citizens might be wanting to fight against the government. For whichever reason, this time round, we have a new reason as to why some people would gather and form a faction that will be fighting against the government. Taking me into a bit of history that happened in real life situation in Nigeria. There was a part of Nigeria that felt it could rule itself. A certain community, the Igbo people of Nigeria, they wanted to acquire self-governance, and that is the issue we talk about secession. When you secede, you break out from the greater, like let's say a tribe in Kenya wants to be a country on its own. That is what you're calling secession. Now, where all these people are coming from, Ebere, Professor Nwoye, Ikena, the Igbo people as a tribe, they wanted to be allowed to rule themselves. They wanted to secede from the government. And whenever a section wants to secede from the government, it will never be done in an amicable way, a friendly way. The government would never allow you. Good luck. You can just go and rule over yourselves. It never happens as so. And because of that, there ensued a war. If you'd later on you'd use your Google, it talks about the war in Biafra. Now, as the stage opens, to the understanding of this story, we are speaking about the war in Biafra, in which the Igbo wanted to secede from the major Nigerian government. As the story continues, you realize that finally, it took 3 years, but finally the government won. Therefore, up to date, we do not have a country called Biafra. It remained as part of Nigeria. Now, the events of Ghosts is taking part, some of it is taking part within that era of the war of Biafra. We see some people, they come over there and they're telling their people, we are going like to fight, and people are moving out. Others even, they go abroad. Someone like Nwoye, who is the narrator, even someone like Ikena also claims to have been in Sweden. So we see it even forces some people to go out. A major question that you might encounter to do with ghosts will be about the effects of war. And as I'm saying this, I'm sure that information can be found in other places. Therefore, I'll not make it my question for discussion today. I'll try and see something different that you can conclude from the same story. But even with the effects of war, you can just make reference to our yesterday's essay, and some of the details will relate. People are dying, people have to migrate. Some of the points will relate. Therefore, this is what informs me to pick a different question from the one that you expected, effects of war. And my question will be, corruption ruins a nation. In 1 minute, I share my screen. My question is on corruption ruins a nation. Before I can share my question, I wanted to share with you, but it seems that from that end it can't. Okay, it can. There it can. Sorry, it can. I hope on my screen we are able to see the definition of corruption. Before I can even share my introduction, my interpretation of the question, I want us to look at the definition of corruption, and it says, corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for private gain. Corruption takes forms such as bribery, embezzlement, nepotism, extortion to weaken institutions. Up to that point, I think I wish to, I don't know whether I'm sharing. Let me go back a bit. Let me go back a bit. Okay, a minute. I wonder what people can see from their end.
The screen is starting to share. Haijafunguka vizuri.
A minute. I don't know where
It's okay.
I've lost them. Give me a
No
minute,
problem.
please.
It's okay. No worries.
Mhm. Okay, what can you see on the screen? One person, please.
Definition of the word corruption.
Okay, then I'm supposed to stop sharing, but you have seen. Thank you for that. We have seen the definition of corruption, and there's another bit I was supposed to tell my students. In paper 3, don't use as a definition as your introduction. You gain a 0. If you define a word, you will gain a 0. But then in your own understanding, this one is for our own understanding, so that whenever we are picking the points, we want to see whether our point will fall into among the confines of the word corruption. We saw that in our understanding, corruption is whereby you have been entrusted with power and you use it for your own gain, personal gain. That one summarizes corruption. Now my question, I'll go ahead and share. And in my question now, I'm on the document that bears the question. I want to look at corruption ruins a nation. That becomes our topic of discussion for today. We look at that position that someone has. How are they using it wrongly, maybe to the disadvantage of other people, while keeping in mind it is for the benefit of a person? That becomes our concern for today. And if I could just preempt, our essay today only has 4 points that you can comfortably develop. The general introduction. Without further ado, we are on the general introduction. We are saying our African countries are riddled with intense acts of corruption on all levels of the economy. Hence, the citizens live a poor life where they're not able to access what is due to them. When you're looking at corruption generally, a general introduction, as long as it touches the requirements of the question. We've spoken about corruption and how it is on the negative side of it. I wonder even whether it has a positive side to it. Another type of introduction, I've confined myself to a paraphrased introduction that says, engaging in corruption leads all the citizens in a country to suffer. There's a bit of a problem in typing. I was supposed to say, leads all the citizens in a country to suffer. In other words, you're talking about corruption is detrimental. And then after that, 1 minute, I stop sharing the screen, and then maybe you converse a bit. As you're conversing, we are able to understand the details of what you want to bring out. If you have read Ghosts, and if you have understood the story, it is mostly about the War of Biafra and how it affected a number of people. And I've just seen some people join us online right now. So for the benefit of the ones who are joining us, today we are looking at a slightly different question, a different theme that is within Ghosts, and we have made it into our essay question. We are talking about corruption and how it ruins a nation. Point number 1, I speak about it and then I'll go ahead and share. Point number 1 touches on the fate of the pensioners and what is happening in the country of Nigeria. Some people have stopped working. Example, someone like Nwoye. As the story starts, Nwoye has gone to his former workplace, the university, He is set to claim his dues, money that is owed to him in form of pension. And you see that the clerk informs him the money has not come in. Another one even apologizes to the professor. The professor is not alone in trying to claim the money. Now, the act of corruption that will be tied to that will be, because someone will ask me, teacher, you've been going to ask for your money and your money is not there. That one is corruption. If I could expound it further, I'll say, we are being told that maybe the vice chancellor has kept this money in high interest earning accounts. You take people's money, let's say it is 100,000, and you know that by on Friday next week, my 100,000 will have changed to 130,000. That means you have gained money. But this money that you are busy investing and getting an interest out of it, is it money that is yours? We see that that one is an act of corruption. The people at the helm, the vice chancellor, it is being suggested, he has used the people's money, put it into an account so that it can earn him interest. And maybe later on, even 10 years later, he might return their money, but it will be after he has benefited himself from their money. And another person, this vice chancellor, is not alone in these accusations. We also see people talking about the Minister of Education, that the Minister of Education has stolen all the pension money. That is why these people keep coming over here, but they cannot be given what is due to them. And the people are inclusive of Nwoye, who was a professor of mathematics. If there's someone who does not know Nwoye, we are trying to make reference to the narrator. Narrator is not alone. We are seeing other people who used to work for the university until the age of retirement, meaning that they have to now stop working but then be paid the money that they were saving. After you have retired, you're entitled to enjoy this money. These people included drivers, messengers, and even gardeners who had served the university. And you see these people are suffering in what ways? For example, someone like a former driver, he used to be Nwoye's, he used to be the narrator's personal driver. He has now been reduced to a cobbler, one who repairs shoes, and his venture as a cobbler is not bringing him enough money. He is even complaining about some of the students that do not even pay him his dues. And we also see the people suffering. Number one, we said, we are still on the same point number one. Point number one seems to be rich in details. The point being delayed remittance of the pension money. You owe us money, but then your money you've not given us. The money you have put it into your own self activities for your personal gain. Let's have that definition of corruption at the back of our mind. And because of the suffering that the people undergo, we see that they're even cursing the vice chancellor. They're saying that may he die of diarrhea and that his children may not have children. Their utterance speaks to the fact that they are suffering to an extent that they see our source of suffering is this vice chancellor. Money that is due to us, someone has turned it into his own, has made it his own private investment and all that. And because people are suffering, we are looking at even some of them are suffering from hunger. When they see someone who looks like he's in a position of an advantage better than they are tempted to ask this person to maybe bless them in the way that they were asking the professor, Nwoye, Professor, buy us bananas because we are hungry. And you see that the professor goes ahead and buys them. And now they are left to to decide on who will be the one to share out the bananas. But we've seen the way the people are suffering, making trips to this office, asking for their money. And because their money has not come in, even some of them have been reduced to do some jobs, such as cobblers, and others are even wearing tattered clothes, thanks to the corruption of some individuals. And the individuals are being narrowed down to Vice Chancellor as well as the Minister of Education. Allow me to share my first point. Allow me to share my first point. My first point that captures on delayed remittance of the pension money. With this delayed remittance, you have to tell us about where has the money gone. If you're able to do that, that is a very rich point that answers on how corruption ruins a nation. The corruption of the maybe Minister of Education, maybe the VC, how has it impacted the nation? Translation, the people. How does it make the people to be disadvantaged simply? Okay, 1 minute. You can quickly read through my first point. We were looking at how are people suffering because of this corruption of the VC, or is it, we are not sure, or is it the minister? I told you about tattered clothes. I told you about someone who is aged. Instead of now sitting down to rest, he has to take up other jobs that seem to not give him enough. Because you see that this guy, he's not paid on time. As I was reading through the point, I've also seen after they had eaten the bananas, Nwoye listens to these people and they're talking about the way they have problems with money lenders. Their new jobs are not working. Their children are sick. So we are seeing the suffering of the people as a result of the corruption that is going on in Nigeria. That made up for my first point. We are also looking at something else, and this was the point that was making me to start by sharing the definition of corruption. Corruption, you see that if you have been put in a position where you decide, let me gain personally. And my point number 2, you'll need to have the definition of corruption before you can fully understand the point. And the point is as follows. There's someone by the name of Ikenna, and the narrative about Ikenna is this. Ikenna was a fire eater, someone who would speak aggressively, and he looked like he was among the people who were happy when at first Biafrans were declared independence. Declared independence meaning from today onwards, you are not part of Nigeria. We are the state of Biafra. And Ikenna was among the people who was in support of them. And he would even organize the first rally at the Freedom Square to, in a way, bring out the support of this new movement. Until it reached a day, these rebels that were now fighting the Nigerian government to allow the Igbo people to be free and form the state of Biafra, there's a time they were being evacuated, wanahamishwa. As they were moving out, Nwoye had a glimpse of Ikenna. I want people to understand the names. The narrator is Nwoye. Another very major character is someone by the name of Ikena. And they had bypassed each other. And these are the soldiers, the Biafran soldiers who are fighting the government. They were evacuating their people. Go to safety, don't worry. In a few weeks, the government will have fallen. You'll come back to peace. And it's like the Biafra people were also happy to have their own government. But then Noe sees Ikena going back. And Ikena says something like, he has forgotten his manuscript. Manuscript is like when a writer, your original work, maybe you have written it in your own handwriting. Before it has been typed, before it has been edited, that original one is what you're calling the manuscript. So we see that Ikena claims something to the tune of, I've left my manuscript, let me go back inside the government, inside the university, and then I will come out. Later on, they hear 2 professors had been killed, and everyone knew the people who have died, one of them, the 2 professors who have died, one of the professors must be Ikena, telling from, he went back when everyone was going out. Number 2, we know that he is in support of the Biafran war. So the government must have found him and killed him. That is why we see that Noe later on, when he meets Ikena, he's surprised. He's almost thinking like he is seeing a ghost. But now the point on corruption comes over here. There's a very clear sentence that says, some people sold their own people so that they can gain safe passage into Nigeria. I'm pausing just for a minute to allow my students to understand the detail of it. At the back of your mind, remember, what is corruption? You are in a position, like we see that this guy was like in a position of the organizers. And they believe he is part of the people supporting the ones who are fighting Biafra no longer to be a part of Nigeria. And among them, they used to hate people that were called saboteurs. In short form, these saboteurs were called sabos. Sabos, they would sell their own people to gain safe passage to Nigeria. And we see that these people, once they sell their own, they would be given things such as salt, meat, or cold water that the rest of the people were denied. That one can be found on page 60. And details strongly suggest Ikena was a saboteur. This guy went back inside. How come he was not killed? And he keeps claiming he was in Sweden, but he doesn't want to speak about this issue in detail because Noe is doubtful. The narrator is skeptical. He wonders, where? You mean there were some people who, the next day when the war broke out, you mean there were some people who went to Sweden? Over here, the narrator is trying to tell us Ikena is lying. Ikena is lying. It was only later, and the people who were evacuated were children. Not the day after the war started, the war between the government and the people of Biafra. So how did Ikena survive that war? Evidence strongly suggests Ikena was a saboteur. The people who were selling their own to gain salt, meat, and cold water that the rest of these people had been denied. And at the back of our mind, we have the definition of corruption. And also when this person is gaining, you're doing something for gain, this one equates to a bribery. A bribe. It equates to a bribe. We don't know whether he was given salt, meat, and cold water, but that is some of the things that were the ones who supported the government away from their own. That is how they were rewarded. Furthermore, how did Ikena escape? He must have been among the people who betrayed so that they gained safe passage into Nigeria. The people that were being beaten during that war were the Biafrans. because they are fighting against the government. At the end of it, how will I tie up my point? People betrayed their fellows, and the betrayed ones faced consequences such as death. Over here, maybe if someone has a concern, I share my screen, and then you can go ahead. I've given it a very long story. And the long story was aimed at cementing that point. But you can read it a bit. Corruption is what you're doing for self-gain. That self-gain is what we are calling you've been bribed. If others are dying, when you are given safe passage, if others are dying, when you can easily gain salt, meat, cold water that the others are being denied, that betrayal for self-gain, you are a corrupt individual. Look at point number 2. Secondly, people are corrupt enough to sell others to gain personally. That's where people say umetuuza. You gained something at our expense. That was Ikenna. Before the Biafran War, Ikenna Okoro was well known at the university for his defiance, his fearlessness, his aggressiveness, and for mocking people who did not agree with him. After Biafra was declared an independent state, Ikenna organized the first rally at Freedom Square. So Professor Nwoye is stunned to hear that Ikenna left Biafra the month following the fall of Nsukka. Nsukka is part of the area of the people of Igbo. Ikenna claims to have gone to Sweden, aboard a Red Cross plane. Professor Nwoye doubts Ikenna's story. The fact that Ikenna refuses to divulge further details about how he got out of the university campus alive or how he came to be on the Red Cross plane fuels Professor Nwoye's suspicion that Ikenna was one of the saboteurs. The Biafrans who betrayed Biafran soldiers in exchange for a safe passage across to Nigeria. You are taken to safety. Biafra people are fighting, but because you have cooperated with us, we shall not kill you, we shall take you where there is peace, we shall take you to Nigeria. And I hope I'm not confusing anyone. Someone will think, teacher, Biafra is Nigeria, but by then, they had tried to secede, kujitenga. So they looked like two different areas, Biafra versus Nigeria. The point continues. Professor Nwoye further doubts Ikenna's story that he quit the Red Cross because the Red Cross backed down from delivering humanitarian aid to Biafra after one of its planes was shot down, and that he organized fundraising and Biafran rallies all over the European capitals. People betrayed their fellows to gain salt, milk, and cold water that the rest had been denied. I hope my class is seeing that element of bribery. The rest have been denied. You are given. You have been bribed. For you to accept a bribe, you are corrupt. I stop sharing my screen for a minute. Anyone with a concern, you can raise it before we move on. Anyone with a concern in 1 minute, you can share it. And today, with me, today you have to speak. I guess that was the hardest point, but I've spoken and spoken. At the end of it, I can just tie it with someone like Ikenna was bribed to sell the others. So personally, he gained. He retained his life. While other people were suffering, they were killed. We saw that some people, for example, a poet, he took up a gun to defend, that one lost his life. The traitors that were out for self-gain, like Ikenna, they survived. Let's go to another point, if I've not seen a concern. A third point is that we are also looking at the university. This one is a point that will be so direct to you. This one I'll not have to go through the pains. of explaining it further. We are looking at the university turning into an avenue of corruption. We are looking at the university right now. Ikenna tells Professor Nwoye that the staff club is now a shell of what it used to be. It is a semblance. It is a ghost. I look at it, I cannot believe it was the one. The staff club, it used to be a prestigious thing. Right now, you look at it, it is a shell of its former self. Therefore, it has declined. Imeshuka chini in terms of status. And you see that? What is making it to have declined? It is because of corruption. Is there any point that can support the fact about corruption? We are being told that no one is teaching anymore. People no longer have fresh ideas. They are not growing. They don't have fresh ideas. The people meant to be teaching, they're no longer teaching. They have turned the university into an avenue of politics all the time. Now, if they're not teaching, they're only engaging in politics, how are the students supposed to make it? We are being told the students are buying grades. That is bribery. And they're using money or their bodies. Some of them are forced to engage in corruption in form of prostitution. They would give their bodies to gain favorable grades. That is already corruption. You're supposed to sit down, read for the exam, gain what is due to you. But because you're bribing, using your body or using money, and also another person, the ones who are supposed to teach, they're also corrupt. Why are they not teaching? And instead they are engaging in politics. And you have not been told that they are not being paid. They are still paid for work they've not done. They've decided we shall be sitting around, we shall be exchanging stories on politics. Still on the third point, it is not yet complete. The university has declined. Teachers are not teaching but engaging in politics too. Number 3, students are buying grades. All these are confined within the same point number 3. And also let's look at one of the chancellors who was at the helm for 6 years. His name is Mr. Josphat Udeana. Mr. Josphat Udeana, during his tenure as the VC, he was running the university like his father's chicken coop. You know a chicken coop? Nyumba ya kuku. Someone is running the university like a chicken coop that belongs to his father, and this one already speaks to his corrupt nature. This guy is corrupt. He lacks integrity. Why is he running the university like his personal entity? Furthermore, this Josphat, you want to prove further he lacks integrity. When you lack integrity, you're corrupt. You know, integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is checking. No one maybe saw Ikenna, if I could go back to the previous point. No one saw Ikenna, but still, he managed to muddle in and fit in. The one who saw him thought he's picking something, but he was doing the wrong thing. Maybe no one saw him, but he still lacked integrity. If you lack integrity, plus the aspect of bribery, Ikenna on point number 2 was corrupt. Let me concentrate on point number 3. I don't lose your focus on how the point is transitioning. The VC, if you can't remember all these names, you can just remember the VC who was at the helm for 6 years, was running the university like his private entity. Therefore, he lacked integrity. Another thing to add to that, money disappeared and he kept having new cars. 1 + 1 = 2. They're telling you this guy was impoverishing. He was making poor the university at the expense of his personal gain. He would have one new car after another. And he would make people believe the cars were foreign donations. On the body of his car, he would stamp it with, if you see maybe, for example, someone having a car, the car has been written UN, you'll be tempted to think UN donated the car. But then there's another aspect of money is disappearing. His car looks like it is being given by foreign foundation donations. But then when we try research on the foundations, imagine what? They do not exist. Why did Professor Josephat, the VC, go through all this trouble? Because he knows that he was stealing money, which is corruption. Furthermore, we are being told, now we want to see the suffering of the people. The people went to court, but nothing came out of it. It's like corruption won. You're using the right channel of taking someone to court, but still the person, nothing was done to him. Despite he's running the university like his personal entity, property, he is stealing money from you. He is pretending the money is, the cars are being bought from money that is a donation. But then when you research on these foundations, they are non-existent. That is Josephat Udeana for you. And you're being told still on the university and the corruption. The vice chancellor that is there currently is also following quickly in the footsteps of Josephat. It is during his tenure that people are altering their official dates. You know, if you're born in 2000, example, and you're supposed to retire 60 years later from 2000, that should be 2060. But then someone realizes 2060 is here with us. There's nothing much I've done. So the person alters their birth certificate. They're no longer born in 2000, but they're now pushing it forward, claiming maybe they were born in 2005 to add themselves a bit more of years of earning from the government. Look at the self-gain. You're doing the wrong thing. That is corruption. So that you yourself can gain. That is what is happening at the university. People altering their birth dates so that they can continue gaining employment beyond their working years. And this is because people do not want to retire. At the end of that point, I was concentrating on what is happening at the university. Before I can recap the three, and then I'll go to point number 4. Today, I don't have many points for this particular question. There are exactly 4 points. If they get to 4 points, it is good enough to be brought as an essay. So in summarizing that point, I'm talking about teachers no longer teaching, students buying their grades, VC running it like it is his own personal property, people altering the years, and they pay a bribery so that they can continue working. And when they do this, do you see the way the people will suffer? When a person who is at the age of retirement does not retire, it will not pave way for the people who need to come in and occupy those positions. Therefore, the citizen is suffering. It is ruining the country, corruption. And also, when you look at people who are buying grades, it ends up giving an advantage to an undeserving person. Before I can go to my last point, for the person who might have slept in between, drifted, maybe the attention drifted, point number 1 was the failure to remit money belonging to pensioners because the money has been stolen. 1, that was corruption. Number 2, someone betraying the others for his own gain, whereby we say he has been bribed. That was Ikena. That was point number 2. Point number 3, the state of affairs at the university. that centered around corruption, with the people adding themselves, working years through altering details, students buying their grades through money or their bodies, taking me to point number 4. And then after that, I think we shall attend to our questions in totality. There's also another aspect of corruption in the country of Nigeria, or in the country from where the story was sourced. We are looking at the idea of selling fake drugs, counterfeit. For you to sell something counterfeit, you're already corrupt. You have been given that position. The citizen might have trusted you as the pharmacist, as the doctor, but then you are selling them fake drugs. And you see someone close to Nwoye, the narrator, must have suffered a similar fate. We are being told that selling expired drugs had become the latest plague in the country. When someone calls something a plague, it means that it is affecting us prevalently from all corners. And these fake drugs are at the expense of another person. The citizen is suffering while the seller is gaining. And someone might ask me, teacher, and why wouldn't they just sell the proper drug? The fake drugs, they'll come at a very cheap price, meaning more margins in terms of profits. So this person is on, the person selling expired drugs, counterfeit drugs, fake and others expired, they will gain financially, but the citizen will suffer. And we shall see that corruption will ruin the country. And I was to tell you, to give you an example of the narrator's wife. She was Ebere. She was undergoing treatment in the country, but instead of getting better, she was getting weaker and weaker after receiving medication. The drugs were proving useless, and Nwoye, the narrator, had started to suspect the drugs are fake. On the same line of thinking, we are talking about selling of fake or expired drugs as an act of corruption. We are able to see that another person was also exposed in the news, and he came in his own defense and he appeared on TV. Sometimes after being exposed, some people opt to come out and defend themselves, and he defended himself on screen, and he said his drugs do not kill people, as if he's telling us something so good. My drugs don't kill people. They just do not cure your disease. And why should the person administer a drug that will not be of benefit to deal with the disease at hand? But because of the money they are gaining, that is an act of corruption. And as the person is making the comment on TV, and we remember that the narrator's wife has succumbed, and they are highly suspicious the death was as a result of the medication that she was being given. This really angers the narrator. He switches off the TV. How can I be listening to this? And it is like it keeps reminding him of some pain that he still bears as a result of the death of Ebere. As I'm finalizing on that point, I'll talk about it is an act of corruption, selling fake or expired drugs, leading to the suffering of citizens such as Ebere, who loses her life. One final chance to share my screen so that you can read point 3 and point 4. Then you can move to do what you can move to conclude. Point number 3 is at the bottom, thirdly. And point number 3, I think So far, you remember. I've tried a lot of words to give it, and there'll always be the advantage of I avail the document at the end of it. Thirdly, the universities have become an avenue for corruption. Ikena tells Professor Nwoye that the staff club is now a shell of what it used to be. To mean, it has declined in status. And Professor Nwoye agrees. Nobody is teaching. Nobody has fresh ideas. It is university politics all the time. To the extent that students buy grades with money or their bodies. And Senate meetings have become personality cult battles. That is, what do I mean by personality cult battles? That is, I'm turning the page. That is, they do not amount to any good. Someone might be taken before the Senate and we know they have done wrong. But because maybe they have a personality where they are very good at defending themselves, nothing happens to them, imagine. So even taking them before the Senate is useless. Let's move on. Josephat was VC for 6 years and ran the university like his father's chicken coop. Yet before he had seemed a person of integrity. Money disappeared and new cars appeared, stamped with the names of foreign foundations that did not exist. Some people went to court, but nothing came out of that. Hence, corruption won. Josephat dictated who would be promoted and who would be stagnated. Still, when you're reading, you see we're gaining more points, maybe even than what I've said. This guy would even decide, I like you, you'll be promoted. I don't like you. That one is still nepotism. It is an act of corruption. And we are seeing the one who has taken over the university, the present chancellor, is following him faithfully, is doing exactly what Josephat used to do. And this current professor, current VC, is the reason people like the professor have not been paid their pension. Lastly, on that point, you're saying others are changing their official dates of birth, which Ikena notes is not the right thing to do. They go to the personnel service and they bribe somebody to add them 5 years. Nobody wants to retire. Buying of grades and falsifying your age are acts of corruption that deny the deserving of the much needed opportunities. The people who deserve, but they're not given. Then there's the other point on the drugs. Don't worry, we have enough time to finish our 2 sessions. Another act of corruption is the selling of fake drugs. Ikena tells Professor Nwoye that he just read about the fake drugs in the newspaper. Selling expired drugs had become the latest plague in the country. Doctors were puzzled as Nwoye's wife, Ebere, got weaker and weaker instead of recovering after receiving medication. The drugs were discovered to be useless much too late. In other words, she was succumbed. So it was too late to the suspicion that she was taking fake drugs. Another man accused of importing fake typhoid fever medicine was interviewed on TV. He claimed that his drugs don't kill people, just that they don't cure your disease. That meant the drugs were fake. This comment enrages Professor Nwoye so much that he switches off his TV. Due to selling of fake drugs, people such as Ebere suffer when she loses her life. Because I've already shared, let's just finalize with even the conclusion. Conclusion, we are giving a piece of advice. We are saying corruption should be rejected from all corners, as it brings with it a lot of suffering of the people, where it denies resources to the ones deserving of them. And you can think about the example of The ones who have refused to retire. Also the ones who are buying their grades to deny the deserving people what is deserving of them. I'm ready to put a halt to that. You have a few minutes to react. There's a common question on effects of war. Effects of war you can relate, but this time you give reference to ghosts. And you can relate to what you learned yesterday about Boe. We could see the migration, even others are. Even you could see something like betrayal. Okay, any reaction? Hope you're still together. I'm hoping you're still together. Okay. I don't know whether the title of the story is the one that scares students. They look at ghosts and they can't relate, but we've been able to decipher what exactly is ghosts, what Noah sees, the wife always coming to massage him, what Noah sees when he meets Ikenna after very many years, someone he thought who had died. We also see some things declining. They become a shell of their former selves, the university. We also see Ikenna physically. He looks like a ghost. He has really declined in his physical appearance. He doesn't look like that person who was that strong. And it brings to a close my first story. The ones who joined later, I said tomorrow, please, at the end of today, share with me maybe questions on various stories so that if there's any story, I'll find a question difficult. I'll bring it back in tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we are dealing with only one story remaining. Therefore, we have to couple it up with another story we have already done, but a different question. A story we have already done, but a different question on that story. Tomorrow we are on Neighborhood Watch. Without further ado, I'm moving to my second session of our essay writing class. I want to speak about the story Ninema. It is a story that is not complex to understand. It is a story that portrays our main character, that shares the name with the title of our story. Ninema, we look at her, we'll understand about a business woman who had put into focus her work so that in the long run, she will enjoy the fruits of her labor. I'm sure any question, after we finish all the stories, could you kindly summarize for us the main themes of the stories in which it has disappeared before I finished reading? I can only read it from above here, after which, what I've seen, I'll summarize the themes. That one I can do. That one I can do if I sit down and just emphasize, just outline them. Sometimes when you try to reason as you're just speaking, the words elude you. Maneno inapotea. So I was on Ninema, and I'm almost certain if it is Ninema that is coming as your KCSE story, it will focus on either her qualities that make her a good business person, or another question. The same points will overlap. Points will overlap. Just the phrasing of the question will slightly change. They might ask you about Ninema. What propels her to be a successful business person? That will be my essay question for today. What pushes her? What is it about Ninema that makes her to excel in business? That will be my question for today. But another question you can be asked on Ninema They can ask you about her qualities that make her admirable. Ninema is an admirable person. What is it about her that we admire? So they can either link it to her character or link it to her success in business. But in the long run, the points will overlap. Before I can share my story, I usually take my 5 minutes, or maybe this one will take less, because nothing much can be covered in, was it 4 pages or was it 3? About Ninema, she seems to be an Indian woman. I can see the way they're describing, she's wearing a sari. A sari is typical of the Indian dressing. About Ninema, we see that she had inherited her trade from her parents. Another thing about Ninema, we see that this lady is also knows something about being economical. The herbs, she is growing herself. She's not buying and reselling. She sells her own herbs. There's something about her being economical. Even you see that she had a modest house. When I talk about modest, is something that is bearable. A modest thing is something that serves the purpose. It is not the law of the law. We cannot talk about she lived in ghetto. At the same time, you cannot say she lived in a mansion. She lived a modest life. And as she was living the modest life, we see that she was saving, hoping for better in future. Hoping for better, that there'll be a day she'll be having her kitchen, having hot water. So Ninema, another thing about her. In other words, it's almost like I'm answering the question already. Our today's question will be aided by the points, the topic sentences, and then from the topic sentences, we build up on the details. So we're looking at Ninema. She wakes up very early in the morning. We look at even the way she harvests her dania, her mint. All these are plants, therefore they turn her hands green. We see her organization, the way she would go to the market, arrange her things very attractively. And she didn't have time for chit chat. And she would only drink her tea after she was done arranging. This is someone who knows how to manage time. And also, we've talked about she's economical. She knows how to save. She carries her own food from home. Another thing that is most admirable about Ninema, the lady is focused. We are being told she had a snatched waist. This one that we in Kenyans we call a figure 8. And the men would be tempted to stare. But her focus was on, I'm here to make a living. I don't care how beautiful I look to the people watching, the onlookers. She did not let her looks get to her head. You know, some of us, ladies, when someone is very beautiful, they tend not to even work hard in life. They think that their beauty would always speak and give them chances. They'll always have a life easy for them. So this woman is focused. That is also another reason she does not have time for chit chat. Ninema also knows how to treat her customers. And all these things I'm saying, in a very few minutes, they'll go to focus, helping us to answer the question at hand. So Ninema, she knows how to deal with her customers. We look at an example of someone called Mrs. Singh. Mrs. Singh is a rich woman who can afford all these things. The money you are telling her is not even a drop in the, it is a drop in the ocean for her. It is very little from what she owns. But then this woman keeps haggling, bargaining. She bargains as a way of keeping herself busy. She wants to stay longer at the market. But Ninema has always known, I will always speak to her like this. In the end, she will buy. We are talking about the way Ninema deals with customers. We're also looking at another point, another customer, Mr. Chandrin. Mr. Chandrin has developed an infatuation for Ninema. But Ninema now does not take advantage of him. She treats him just like all other customers with respect. As much as people are telling her, you look like you're blind. Can't you see this man is interested in you? Ninema just brushes it off. She thinks, among the Indian people, there is the caste system of life. This person, like Mr. Chandrin, he belongs to the Brahmins. The Brahmins are the highest. They do not intermarry between the castes. So when these women are flattering her, hey, you're beautiful, this man is even taking notice of you. Ninema chooses to just brush it aside. And she deals with Mr. Chinran in the same way she deals with other customers. Example of another customer is Dr. Siddharth. Even when Dr. Siddharth comes in, there is a way that Ninema knows, because he is here for a short while, he's supposed to go back to work. I'll drop my every other business and give him a few minutes of my time. Ninema was also a good listener. She would know whose daughter has gotten married recently and all that. She's also a good listener when her customers are making small talk. And all this that I was trying to give make Ninema to be admirable. At the same time, they make Ninema to excel in business. I know there's some favorite part, maybe a memorable incident, where Ninema hit that man with her champal, with her slippers. But for today, we do not see this one featuring in our today's essay question, because today's essay question is, and I'm to share it in a few, for a business to thrive, the business owner needs to adopt certain rules to see to the success of their business. The question has asked you, what kind of a business owner, what kind of a business woman, business person, I don't know what you want to call her, is Ninema that makes her to succeed? Allow me, I'm sharing my screen. I'm sharing my screen. It has been written in red. We are looking at the thriving of a business. We are looking at the business owner. In other words, we've translated it to Ninema. What are some of the things she does? Adopt certain rules. What are some of the things she does to see to the success of her business? It is a simple question. What are some of the things that Ninema does that translate to the success of her business? And today I've used a general to contextualized introduction, followed by a paraphrased introduction. You can still have a contextualized one. By this far, we can come up with one. You just talk about Ninema is a great businesswoman because she is hardworking, she does not chat easily, she knows how to treat her customer, among others, as it will be discussed below. Contextualized, you can just come up with one anyway. General to contextualized, I'm on the screen that you're sharing. General to contextualized, I want to focus on the screen that you're sharing. To succeed in business, a business person should have exemplary attributes and stick to inherent rules. Inherent means what you have inside of you. You don't go into a school to learn. Some people do not get into a school to learn how to run a business. But then with these inherent skills or rules that she abides by, she is able to push to growth. That is where my general introduction ended. And then I continued. I now went to the contextualized and I said, Ninema is a beautiful young woman. As a teacher of English, I recognize there's a problem with the word order. Ninema is a beautiful young woman who sells herbs at the Indian market. She stands out from the pack at the marketplace due to the manner in which she conducts her business. Let's go to the paraphrased introduction. The success of any venture, a venture is a business, requires the possession of various skills to realize results, as can be seen of Ninema. This is just like our yesterday's. In fact, yesterday's was easier. About Ninema, you have to tell us what she does, and then you give evidences towards the same. So to begin with, Ninema, firstly, hard work is necessary to make it in business, as is the case of Ninema. I can change my topic sentence and say, the success of Ninema is fueled by her hard work. I've just said the same thing. I've just changed the wordings. And how do we know that Ninema is hardworking? We are being told she sells fresh produce at the Indian market. She learned the trade from her parents, and the hard work is captured as follows. She rises early at 4 a.m. to reap her herbs from the garden. That is hard work. How many of us, even though maybe it is paying, maybe it is my source of livelihood, how many of us can get up at 4 a.m. and at 4 a.m. she wakes up to harvest them? For the one who has not, for the one maybe we have left behind a bit, the one who has not understood that whatever she grows is from her own, whatever she sells is from her own, she wakes up early in the morning to reap, and you know to reap is to harvest her herbs from the garden. And you are being told she has green fingers. It is an idiom. Someone who has green fingers is someone who is able to gain food from farming. You know, some of us, I don't know what kind of fingers you might be having. You're ever planting, but yours never succeed. They just die midway through the season. This woman had green fingers. She had that ability to harvest food from farming. She would plant and God blessed her hands that it would grow. We're still on the hard work. Apart from telling me she woke up at 4 a.m., what else can you tell me? As she is sighing, we are being told we recognize it was challenging. When someone says, the person sighs out of the challenge. Maybe the person is even tired. But then these challenges, we are being told she is not resigned. When she is sighing, it is a communication that it is a challenge, but her hard work still propels her, still pushes her, and you're being told she is winning. She's not resigned. She is winning. And because of that attitude, things seem to be working in her favor. How? She wakes up early in the morning, she sighs, but she doesn't give in. She doesn't allow it to defeat her. At the end of the day, she makes it where she gets good profits. What else? When she's going home, this woman has tied money in her handkerchief and it is bulging, meaning she has made a lot of money, not little. What is making that handkerchief to be heavy with coins and notes? She has made very good sales. So for a business person, when I'm winding up, the clincher sentence in that paragraph, I'll say, Ninema gains profits from her hard work, characterized by waking up early. The hard work superseding the others. Let me just wake up early. As much as I'm sighing to the challenges that I'm experiencing, I'm not allowing the challenges to overcome me. I'm overcoming the challenges. As is the norm, let us share the screen. We look at Ninema and the details pertaining to her hard work. And our essay seems big. It has gone over 1,000 words, but you'll pick the 4 that are most suitable for your essay. It is a big document. concentrate on number 1, waking up at 4 a.m., reaping her herbs. At the end of the day, we see her getting good profits. When she's walking home, her handkerchief bulges with notes and coins. Someone might have been tempted to tell me, teacher, the handkerchief is bulging because coins are usually heavy. But you see, the writer has also told us she also has gained notes in currency and coins as well. And this hard work makes her superior to the others. Some of them, there's even a part we saw they were hating. They were feeling like she's carrying herself with an air of authority, but others were admiring her. So even in whatever good you're doing, as much as some people will hate it, you just move on. That was Ninema on the point of working hard. We also look at point number 2. What else makes Ninema to excel in business? You're being told she is economical. Economical is the wise use of resources. The wise use of resources, you see, example is, she is living in a modest house and she is saving up and projecting in future she will build a better house. Someone chooses to live a simple life as long as in future I will not be here forever. And her perception is in future life will be better. Still on that, apart from the house she lives in, what else do we see? We see she brings her own tea and lunch from home. That is someone who is saving. That is someone who is saving from what she might have spent. She brings her own tea in a flask and she carries her own lunch. Number one, we've said, this is the same point, Ninema is economical. And the thing that will speak to her business thriving, because of her being economical, she has saved up some money and she is projecting to build a house from her savings in future. She would have a good house with running hot water and a kitchen inside. She has a dream. So modest house, carries her own food, and still on economical, she is growing her own crops that she later on sells in the market. This is someone who knows business. This is someone who is economical. That is it about Ninema. Let me share the screen once more. Ninema and her economic nature. Look at point number 2. She grows in her garden the herbs that she sells. Furthermore, she brings her own tea and lunch and packs sandwiches for lunch. She's a poor girl living a modest. Modest is simple, but she has big plans. This is a business person who is centered, who is focused towards growth. She had big plans. She saves part of her money with a view of buying a big house of her own. Currently, her house has neither running water nor a kitchen inside. She has to wash her face and feet using cold water from the outside tap every morning. We are looking at her character of economical, saving on what you could have spent. And that one will, in a way, propel her business when in the long run, look at my concluding statement on paragraph 2. Her economical nature has enabled her to save up at least. If you're a business person and all you do is sell, but you have nothing to show for it, you are a poor business person. This one I think I have more than 4 points about Ninema. And the story of Ninema can be approached from only one angle. Hey, the points are many. The points are many. Therefore, let me move to number 3. Even more than 5, I think. Point number 3, we also look at time management. For success of a business, the person involved needs to have good time management skills. We look at what details speak to her time management. Even waking up early can still come back into this point. It can still overlap. A different point, but you are still picking an illustration from elsewhere. And over here we are saying she wakes up early. How else does she manage her time well? As the other people are putting up their stalls, they are busy chit-chatting with each other. Ninema rarely chats back because, and the reason we are told, she does not want to waste time. Not because she's such a mean person, she doesn't want to waste time. Still on time management, we are told, it is only after her stall has been set, everything has been put in place, that is when she can take a sip of her tea. This is someone who is managing time. I hope I'm communicating to someone on time management. We can approach it from many angles. She wakes up early. Number 2. Number 2, when people are chit-chatting, she does not reply much because she does not want to waste time. Number 3, she has to ensure her stall has been set up, everything in its place before she can sip her tea. In other words, she's saying, eating is secondary. It is not my primary goal. Number 4, this one I've not mentioned, still on time management. At lunchtime, she eats as she works. Do my students remember that the working class, the doctors and these lawyers, the accountants working in offices, it is at lunchtime that these people can be attended to by Ninema. Therefore, she does not say, I've closed for lunch, let me eat first. She multitasks. As she is munching on her sandwiches that she carried from home, she also attends to the customers. At the end of the day, there's still another part that speaks to her time management. Any day at the end of her business, you see that Ninema folds up a chair that she had been using. And anytime she's folding up to leave, we see that the other women were still working. The other women were still cleaning and putting away their stalls. In other words, it seems like they are late. She has already managed her time and now she is leaving. So, point number 3 about her good skills that make her to excel in business is time management. Due to the time management, she's able to start on time, serve all her customers, and still leave early enough, having made profits. That is a successful venture that is being portrayed. Another thing about Ninema that propels her to succeeding in business is the fact that she is focused. As much as people praise her for her beauty, the men and women alike, the women are admiring her high cheekbones. The men are admiring her when she walks, swinging her hips, and they could catch sight of her cinched waist. The men stop and even stare at her beautiful figure. But we are being told Ninema does not take the attention to heart. Her concern is with earning a living on page 14. That one already has answered on the fact that she is a successful businesswoman. She does not bank on her beauty. Even when they look at her, she looks back at them with a stare that stops them dead in their tracks. She's trying to tell them, I'm not here to play. I'm not a picture. I'm not something that you'll just be staring at to admire. I'm here. I am here for business. As the other women are chatty, she rarely chats back. That one is still, that one can still be an illustration you had seen prior when you were talking about time management. But over here, it can still be another detail that speaks to her focus. Why are you not chatting with the others? I'm not chatting with the others because I'm focused on what I am doing. Still on her focus, we see that there's a man who has been infatuated by Ninema. He has been infatuated by her beauty with Ninema. It is a rich lawyer, and we've said lawyers over here seem to belong to a higher caste system. And this guy, he doesn't say it, but all the signs are there that he is in love with Ninema. And others decide to take it upon themselves to inform Ninema, you know what? This guy seems to be interested in you. But we are being told Ninema does not. And you remember the point is focus. Ninema does not encourage him to be infatuated with her. So she treats him as she treats all her loyal customers. And how is that? Respect and appreciation. The fact that you admire me as a woman, I'm still focused on the business between you and me. After all, my caste and yours do not intermarry. So why don't we do this? Why don't you focus on what brings a relationship between the two of us, which is business? And as a result of this focus of hers, we still see that Ninema is able to retain customers such as Mr. Chinran, despite her never giving him the attention. But I've noticed you like me, she never does that. And the guy, we never see him going away. He still keeps coming over and over again, which in a way translates to her business will continue to flourish. If your customers keep coming back, that is a sure way of her business flourishing because she is focused. At no point did she decide to mix business with pleasure. She continued to treat Mr. Chinran with respect and appreciation, the way she used to treat the rest of her loyal customers. Another point is Ninema's organizational skills. After she has worked hard, gone to the market, there's a way we are being told she places her herbs neatly in her basket. And the author notes very, the writer brings it out that Ninema, when she sets up her market stall, she arranges the herbs appetizingly. Appetizingly is a way that attracts. How many times have you ever been to the market? Very many people are selling tomatoes. Why do you choose to buy from this one and not that other one? Maybe it might be the way they have. Presentation is key. The way they have presented. What makes you buy from this, maybe people selling chips, what would make you buy from this person and not the other one? It might be the way they have presented their goods outwardly. And that is one of the points you look at Ninema. Her herbs had been arranged neatly in a way that made it appetizing. Appetizing speaks to the fact that the customers will easily be attracted. And do they get attracted? The answer is yes. The answer can be found on page 15. we are being told that the customers are attracted by the smell and the look of her stall. So it was not in vain. She has achieved her agenda as a business person. She has been able to soar above the others. They're also selling Dania. They're also selling their mint. But she has been able to rise above them from her organizational skills, neatness, and the appetizing arrangement, leading customers to get attracted by the smell and the look. And do we see something else that is attractive? Yet she's not the only one selling the danias and others and the other goods she is selling. We see that there is a high demand for her herbs. She has a steady flow of customers. What does that tell you already? She is following some rules that make her to excel in business. There's a high demand. She has a steady flow of customers to the extent that even at lunchtime, she is busy. And the rich professionals prefer to buy from her. Still, she does not drop the prices as others are busy criticizing her for it. She still maintains, and others admire her for that, others do not. And the ones who admire her for that, they say, hey, we really admire what Ninema is doing. Some of us have been made to compromise ourselves at home as well as at the market. They have to lower their dignity. They've not been given the details of how they lower themselves at home, but they have to play second fiddle. You're not the best. Like when someone is selling at 100, you say, come, I'll sell mine at 70. You're playing second fiddle. You're telling someone, I'm not good enough, mine are not good enough. You're compromising yourself. But anyway, organizational skills, they lead to her success, whereby she sells faster. Do you remember that she closes like earlier than the others? Hers, they sell faster. To another point, Ninema has a way of attracting and retaining customers through her friendly nature. I hope I've been able to drum it to my students that she is not unfriendly. She just focuses on, I know when to speak, I know when not to speak, because she's friendly enough to the customers. That is the reason she knows who is getting married, who went abroad. She makes time to genuinely listen to the conversations of her customers. That one is a genuine connection. So this point I've said, I think right now we are at point number 5, if I'm not wrong. Ninema is friendly by nature. Therefore, she's able to attract as well as retain her customers. We don't see Ninema, Mrs. Singh buying from her today and tomorrow going somewhere else. Mrs. Singh will always come and bargain, but tomorrow she'll still be buying from Ninema. We also see someone like Chinran. You see, the same details can come back to a different point. We also see someone like Chinran, the lawyer. The lawyer, because the lady did not mix business with pleasure, his interest is maintained. He keeps coming over there until the man is worried that very soon he will have to give in to an arranged marriage. Therefore, it will be the wife who will be coming for these goods from Ninema. He'll no longer be the one to buy this. But we're still focusing on Ninema, and whichever way, whether the man is interested with her beauty, but in a way, Ninema as a business person, we can give it to her that she has a way of attracting her customers. Let me give another example. Ninema had a belief that your first customer of the day and your last customer of the day they brought with them good luck. Therefore, you had to handle them in a special way. For example, there's a day that Ninema landed on a walk-in. Walk-in is that customer of yours that comes to you by chance. Not your regular customer, but maybe might have been passing only to say, hey, look at that attractive arrangement of the herbs. Let me go and buy. So there's a time Ninema is on her way towards closing up. A chance customer drops by and Ninema rewards her with an extra bunch of mint for free. We see that the new customer is appreciative and she promises to come back the following day to buy from Ninema. What are we saying? Ninema is friendly. She knows how to attract and retain customers. She might have attracted the customer from the organizational skills on the way she has arranged her herbs. But then she was also able to retain that customer by her rule of special treatment to the last customer of the day. And just like that, Ninema has gained a new customer that promises to come back the next day. Ninema, such are the things that make her to be a successful business person. As I was talking about the relationship with the customers, you can still talk about the way she had genuine interest in their conversations. From that, she would remember whose son was going to study in India or whose daughter just got married. You only remember someone's conversation if you are paying attention. You can only pay attention if you are genuinely interested. Even the way she spares Dr. Siddharth time and engages in a conversation with him, we see that Dr. Siddharth is sold. He's a loyal customer. He is ever coming over there. With that point on, attracting and retaining customers to her benefit where her customer base grows, it takes me to my last point on Ninema, the story. We also see that Ninema runs her business with an iron fist. The writer describes her to be as tough as old boots. And what the writer is saying about Ninema Venkapatha seems to be fond of her character Ninema. Then she describes Ninema, she is also a fan. She admires Ninema as a character from the way she portrays Ninema. We're told that Ninema ran her business with an iron fist. She was firm, in other words. Someone with an iron fist is someone you cannot manipulate easily. In business, when you are compromising every day, people will take you for granted. They'll know that you're desperate to make sales. They'll take you for granted. But this is not Ninema. Ninema is as tough as old boots. Let's look at the example of firmness of Ninema in relation to her business. This firmness of Ninema, it can be exemplified. We can build up on it. We can illustrate it using Mrs. Singh, who is a rich old woman who tries to bargain for lower prices always. And there's a way that Ninema just speaks to her without lowering the prices from what Ninema has given. And still, with this firmness, Mrs. Singh will still come to buy from Ninema. So we can say that she has a skill of handling the stubborn Mrs. Singh. We can even see she calls her respectfully auntie. She's not the first time I've seen among Indians. They would refer to someone older in age with the title of auntie Auntie is meant to bring out respect. So we see that Ninema never budges for Mrs. Singh or anyone else. She does not even later on there are some women at the market who admire Ninema. They say, as much as some of them feel offended that she does not reduce the prices of her herbs, some people still become fans. They admire her. They wish they would have been like Ninema, whereby they didn't have to compromise themselves at home as well as in business. Therefore, you can say that because of her uncompromising nature, Ninema attracts and commands the respect and admiration from fellow market women. You can imagine you are one of them. You might be selling similar goods, but your competitors, they admire you. They want to learn your secret. If people want to learn your secret yet you're in the same business, that tells you, already speaks to the fact that Ninema is a successful businesswoman. Even on the same point as I'm concluding that she is firm. She runs her business with an iron fist. She is as tough as old boots. We can still get back to the example where Ninema does not compromise for Mr. Chinran. Despite to everyone's knowledge that this guy is interested in her, she does not compromise. To me, you are a customer, and I feel we should relate to each other as customer and the business owner. If I can share my screen for the last bit so that we can go to the conclusion. Let me count how many points I had on Ninema. Six different points on Ninema. Number 1, hard work. Number 2, economical. Number 3, time management. Number 4, focus. Number 5, organizational skills. Number 6, friendly nature of attracting. In fact, there are 7 points. And lastly, number 7, her firmness, equivalent of running the business with an iron fist. That is the best you can see about Ninema. It is a short story that doesn't have a wide perspective of it. Just understand Ninema and how she carries out her business. You'll be right on track. You'll have put your finger on the right details and you'll be ready for that question. As I had earlier promised, my last bit of the document it is a large one. It is a large one, over 1,000 words. But you don't have to give me 7 points. You can pick your best 4. If you pick your best 4, I'm sure, plus you pick only one type of introduction, I'm sure your essay will meet the stipulated number of words. So the conclusion at the end of it, you're saying, Ninema proves to be a good business person in the admirable manner in which she conducts her affairs, and for that, she achieves success. She's a good business person, you're concluding. She carries out her ventures in an admirable manner. In the long run, she achieves success. Always remember, it has to relate to the question of the day. For a business to thrive, the business owner needs to adopt certain rules to see to the success. So we're talking about Ninema. How does she conduct herself and how does she succeed in business? This one has brought to an end our today's session on Ninema. we gear up for our final one on short stories tomorrow. And I wanted your input, and I hope tomorrow we are still maintaining our morning hour of a Saturday so that we can easily get to our other ventures of the day. We attend to our other things. Anything that someone wants to tell me? Or anything that you want us to? Number one, someone had already given me an idea that tomorrow we focus on for each story. I just in a few words tell you the major themes that you can focus on. We know that paper 3 is not really themes, but from the themes we learn the focus of the story. Any other thing someone wants to tell me? The floor is yours. I don't know whether I've seen the question. The problem is it disappears very fast, but I've seen it to the end. Someone is asking, growing of the herbs, isn't it economical? I think I said it. Growing her own as opposed to buying. It's like you have your own warus, potatoes, you're getting from your farm. You see, you'll gain more interest, more than if you are purchasing from another person and then putting in your margins. Any other thing someone wants to tell me? When it is on the screen, I read it very fast before it disappears. If I'll be unable, I'll allow the person to speak. Any other thing someone wants to bring to my attention? You can still visit my inbox. Maybe you have seen a different question on the stories that you have covered. If you have seen a different phrasing of a question you've not covered, you can visit my inbox and share with me what else you can do for tomorrow. Your teacher should confirm tomorrow whether our class is at 9 or 10. What I remember is it should be within the early hours of our day. Okay, I will avail the material in a few minutes. I hope you are able to access yesterday's essays that I availed in the group. I availed 4 of them at the same time. Today I'm availing 2 from the ones that you've discussed. 1 more minute of any concern. If there isn't, then I wish to leave the meeting. I appreciate you for being my audience as usual. We can meet tomorrow. Thank you.